So, all this stuff about Fernanda Torres and this film, I'm Still Here. Well, I gotta admit, I wasn't really familiar with her work before, but when I started digging into all this, I was hooked. This whole Oscar buzz thing is going on. It's not every day a Brazilian film gets this kind of attention, on the international stage.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
You see, Fernanda Torres is, she's huge in Brazil.
Right.
Like, everybody knows her, especially from all those comedic roles she's done. Mm-hmm. But I'm Still Here.
Yeah.
That's something else, is definitely.
It is. It's like she's known for making people laugh.
Right.
Not exactly,
Exactly.
bringing them to tears.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
He hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
But this film,
Yeah.
it really shows just how much depth she has as an actor. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Golden Globes win, and then the Oscar nomination on top of that.
It's wild.
It's like the whole country is celebrating.
I can imagine. It's like their own Fernanda is taking on Hollywood.
Yeah.
But, I do have to wonder,
What's that?
is it really fair to compare this to, like, World Cup level excitement? I mean, that's...
Yeah, okay, maybe not World Cup level.
Yeah.
But it's definitely sparked a lot of conversation.
Sure.
What's really interesting, too, is that Fernanda Torres' mother,
Yeah.
Fernanda Montenegro,
Right.
she's a legend in Brazilian cinema.
I did read a little about her, yeah.
And she was actually nominated for an Oscar herself.
Wow, really?
Back in '98 for Central Station.
Ooh.
And you know what? It was directed by the same director who did I'm Still Here.
Get out of here.
Walter Salles.
Wow, talk about a talented family.
Right.
Wait, Central Station? That's the one about...
It's about a woman who writes letters for people who can't read or write themselves.
Right.
And she ends up helping this young boy find his father.
Oh, yeah.
It's really a beautiful film.
I've heard of it.
And what's really touching is that
Yeah.
Montenegro has said that Torres has already won, whether she gets the Oscar or not.
Yeah.
A mother's pride.
That's got to feel good.
Yeah.
It really makes you realize this is about so much more than an award.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, like, a legacy.
Absolutely.
But let's get into the film itself.
Sure.
I'm Still Here tells the true story of Eunice Paiva,
Right.
whose husband disappeared during Brazil's military dictatorship.
It's really a story about a woman whose life was just completely turned upside down.
Yeah.
Imagine this. You're imprisoned,
Okay.
then released with zero explanation.
Wow.
And you're left to raise 5 children completely alone, all while you're desperately trying to find answers about your missing husband.
It's hard to even fathom that. And
Yeah.
this film, it's based on a memoir, right? Written by Eunice's son,
It is.
Marcelo Rubens Paiva.
That's right. Also called I'm Still Here.
Okay.
It gives you a really raw, like unflinching look
Yeah.
at what it was like to live through that really, really dark period in Brazil's history.
I can only imagine how challenging
Yeah.
that must have been for Torres to prefer.
I know, right? To step into Eunice's shoes. Torres's performance is the thing that's getting all the awards buzz.
I can see why.
And you could really see why when you watch the film. She completely immersed herself in the role,
Wow.
working with acting coaches, even a psychiatrist,
Really?
to really understand the trauma that Eunice went through.
Yeah.
She even wrote letters as Eunice
Wow.
just to try to get into her headspace.
That's dedication.
And there's this one scene,
Yeah.
the interrogation scene.
Oh, wow.
She doesn't say a single word, but her face just tells you everything.
Wow.
About Eunice's fear, her defiance. It's incredible.
It's like she actually lived through it.
Right.
Not just acted it out.
Exactly.
Yeah, like she really lived through it.
Yeah.
Not just acted it out.
Right.
And speaking of looking through it, this film has really stirred things up in Brazil, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, those dictatorship years are still such a sensitive subject.
They are a wound that hasn't fully healed.
Right.
For a lot of people,
Yeah.
it's a past they would much rather just forget about, not revisit.
Yeah.
But I'm Still Here.
Yeah.
It forces them to confront them.
Remember. And it's so interesting how this film's release coincided with like some pretty intense political stuff, both in Brazil and, even here in the U.S.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
It's almost like this film came out,
Yeah.
right, when both Brazil and the U.S. were dealing with leaders who, well, let's just say
Right.
democracy felt a little fragile.
Understatement.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Bolsonaro.
Okay.
Now, for our listeners who might not be up on,
Right.
Brazilian politics,
Sure.
can you give us a little background on him?
So Bolsonaro is, well, he's a pretty controversial figure.
I gathered that much.
He openly admired the military dictatorship,
Really?
which, makes you wonder
Yeah.
how a film like I'm Still Here
Right.
even got made
Right.
while he was president.
Right.
In fact, one of the articles I read mentioned
Yeah.
that if he had won re-election,
Uh-huh.
they might not have even been able to film certain exterior scenes.
Wow, that's chilling.
It is.
And it makes the film's message about authoritarianism and resistance even more powerful.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that history can repeat itself.
Yeah.
That we can't just sit back and assume everything's going to be okay.
We can't take our freedoms for granted.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that brings us to Eunice Paiva herself.
Okay.
This woman went through hell.
She did.
Lost her husband, was imprisoned, raised 5 children all alone.
Yeah.
And instead of being crushed by all that,
Right.
she became an advocate for justice.
Yes.
A champion for indigenous rights.
She really did.
I mean,
It's amazing.
how did she find the strength?
You know, Eunice, she didn't just speak out against injustice.
Yeah.
She went a step further. She helped expose this scheme
Okay.
where indigenous land was being stolen
Wow.
by, let's just say, some very powerful developers.
Oh, wow.
And this scheme, it went all the way up to, well, let's just say some very influential people.
Wow.
It took incredible courage to do what she did.
You know, reading her story, it made me think about times in my own life where I felt powerless.
Sure.
You know, and it's inspiring to see how she not only survived,
Right.
but like found the strength to fight back.
She did.
It's like she found her true self through all that hardship, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful transformation.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to something important about the film itself.
What's that?
It's not a tragedy.
Okay.
It's a story about transformation, about finding hope and purpose in the midst of, you know, just incredible suffering.
And speaking of resilient women,
Right.
it's impossible to talk about this film without bringing up Torres' own mother, Fernanda Montenegro.
Yeah.
You have this incredible lineage of strong Brazilian women.
I know.
Each one, you know, inspiring the next.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like this incredible lineage of strong Brazilian women, each one inspiring the next.
It's a powerful reminder
Yeah.
that strength and resilience, you know, can be passed down like almost like a torch from one generation to the next.
Absolutely.
And it makes you wonder, like, what will that legacy mean for future generations?
Right.
Not just in Brazil,
Yeah.
but everywhere, you know?
Right. Like, what can we all learn from Eunice Paiva's story
Right.
about, you know, facing our own challenges, even if they seem small
Yeah,
compared to what she endured?
sure.
What does this all mean for us, for you listening right now?
Well, I think Eunice Paiva's story teaches us
Yeah.
that we all have this reservoir of strength within us,
Okay.
even when we think we've hit our limit. You know, it's about finding that strength in unexpected places.
Right.
Like in the love we have for our families,
Yeah.
the fight for justice, and the belief that things can get better,
Yeah.
that a better future is possible.
But, you know, some critics have said
Yeah.
that the film doesn't go far enough in
Okay.
condemning the dictatorship. What do you think about that?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I think the film's power comes from its nuance.
Okay.
It doesn't offer like easy answers
Yeah.
or simple judgments.
Right.
It asks us to really grapple with the complexities
Yeah.
of history,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
to acknowledge the pain and the suffering, but also to recognize the resilience of the human spirit.
And maybe that's what makes I'm Still Here so relevant today.
Right.
You know, it's like this reminder that the fight for freedom and justice is never truly over.
I agree.
I mean, could something like this happen again?
It's a question we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
In Brazil?
Yeah.
In other parts of the world?
It's a sobering thought.
Yeah, it is.
You know, we'd like to think
Yeah.
that we've learned from the mistakes of the past, but history has a way of, you know,
Of repeating itself.
repeating itself.
If we're not careful.
If we're not careful, right,
Yeah.
it's up to all of us to be vigilant, to speak out against injustice,
Right.
to protect those freedoms.
I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect note to end on, and we encourage all of you listening
Yeah.
to seek out I'm Still Here.
Absolutely.
You know, experience this incredible story for yourselves.
Yes.
It's a film that'll stay with you long after the credits roll.
It will.
A reminder that even in the darkest times, the human spirit can not only endure,
Right.
but thrive.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive
Yeah, thanks for having me.
into Fernanda Torres, and I'm Still Here. We'll catch you next time.
See you later. 5 more.